With less than a week left until the U.S. runs out of money if Congress fails to raise or suspend the $31 trillion debt ceiling, Democratic President Joe Biden and Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy appeared upbeat Monday that both chambers of Congress will pass their tentative deal, hammered out over the weekend, and prevent what Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has called the unthinkable from happening. Biden said he had been working the phones to get lawmakers on his side.
Look, you know I never say I'm confident what the Congress is going to do, but I feel very good about it. I've spoken to a number of the members. I spoke to McConnell. I spoke to a whole bunch of people, and it feels good. We'll see when the vote starts.
After weeks of tough negotiations, the crucial test now comes on Tuesday. That's when the House Rules Committee takes up the bill. McCarthy predicts most of his fellow Republicans who control the House 222 to 213 will support suspending the debt ceiling. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries also says he expects support from his side, although also some on the far left to vote no as well. And at least two hard-right Republicans McCarthy appointed to the Rules Committee, the price he paid to secure his position as House Speaker, say they do not support the bill. Representative Chip Roy wrote on Twitter that there were, quote, no serious substantive policy reforms. Another panel member, Ralph Norman, called the deal insanity, as the spending cuts don't go far enough. The bill would suspend the debt limit through January 2025 and set aside the politically risky issue until after the 2024 presidential election. It also claws back unused COVID relief, caps government spending, and raises the defense budget. The financial markets responded mostly positively on Monday to the prospects of a Biden-McCarthy deal, seeing it as a path to avert potential chaos on a massive scale if the U.S. was unable to make payments on its securities. But some investors are wary that the spending cuts secured by McCarthy could drag down U.S. growth. Investors are also bracing for potential volatility in the U.S. bond market, as the Treasury is expected to quickly refill its empty coffers by issuing bonds once the debt ceiling is raised.
It is great to be back, and it's great for me to report that our great American comeback starts by sending Joe Biden back to his basement in Delaware. I mean, he spends so much of his time as president on vacation, we might as well make it permanent. Our country is going in the wrong direction. We can see it and we can feel it. Our southern border has collapsed. The Mexican drug cartels have more control over what goes on at the border than our own United States government. Look at the economy. The Biden administration is doing all it can to make it harder for the average family to make ends meet and to attain and maintain a middle-class lifestyle. The bill for the massive borrowing, spending, and debt and record printing of money by the Fed, that's falling on the American people. We will reverse Biden policies that have harmed our economy, and we'll build an economy where working Americans can achieve a good standard of living. We also cannot allow the quest for short-term profit to trump the long-term national interests like our elites have done with the Chinese Communist Party for more than a generation. We need to rebuild critical infrastructure and manufacturing capability in this country. We cannot be dependent on China for critical goods and materials.
Elizabeth Holmes reported to prison Tuesday to begin serving her 11-year sentence for fraud. The 39-year-old shot to fame as the chief executive of the now-defunct blood testing startup Theranos, a company once valued at $9 billion. Holmes had boasted Theranos would revolutionize medical diagnoses with just a simple pinprick, with machines she said could run a battery of tests with just a few drops of blood. But the firm collapsed after a series of articles in the Wall Street Journal in 2015 questioned the technology. Holmes, once the world's youngest female self-made billionaire, was subsequently convicted of fraud at trial in California last year. Prosecutors said that Holmes misrepresented Theranos' technology and finances. She testified in her own defense and said she believed her statements were accurate at the time. Holmes is appealing her conviction in a number of the judge's rulings from her trial. Her co-defendant was former Theranos president Ramesh Sunny Balwani. He was convicted of defrauding investors and patients at a separate trial and sentenced to just under 13 years in prison. He began serving his sentence in April.
Russia says that Ukraine launched its biggest ever drone attack on Moscow on Tuesday, but all 8 drones were destroyed by its air defences. One politician branded it the worst attack on the capital since World War II. The incident coincided with the latest wave of airstrikes on Kiev, marking a moment where both capitals were hit on the same day. Some of Moscow's most prestigious areas were reportedly hit by drone debris, including Leninsky Prospect, a grand avenue crafted under Joseph Stalin, and an elite area of western Moscow, where President Vladimir Putin has a residence. The capital's mayor said 2 people were injured and 1 hospitalized in the early morning attack. A Ukrainian official denied Kiev's involvement in the Moscow attack, but said Ukraine was enjoying watching the strike and forecast more to come. Across the border, Kiev was hit on Tuesday for the 3rd time in 24 hours and for the 17th time in May. Ukrainian defense forces said they shot down more than 20 Iranian-made Shahed drones. Kiev's mayor, Vitaly Klitschko, responded to the attack.
Putin needs Ukraine without Ukrainians. It's terrorism. It's everyone, yes, of course, worry about that. And Russians want to bring depression to our people. Instead, depression, people very angry.
Officials said at least 1 person died and others were injured when debris from a destroyed Russian projectile hit a high-rise apartment building, causing a fire. Ukraine is promising a counteroffensive backed with Western weapons to try to drive Russian occupiers from seized territory. Moscow says it is open to resuming stalled peace talks with Kiev and has welcomed mediation efforts from Brazil and China. But Kiev insists full withdrawal of Russian troops is the only way to end the war. Tensions are flaring in northern Kosovo, where ethnic Albanian mayors have been trying to take office following April elections, boycotted by the local majority Serb population. On Monday, Serb demonstrations left at least 30 NATO peacekeepers and 52 Serbs injured. 15 years after Albanian-majority Kosovo declared independence, Serbia still refuses to recognise Kosovo's statehood and instead deems it part of its territory. This is despite recognition for Kosovo from major EU countries and the US, who've called on all parties to de-escalate the situation. Kosovo is attempting to assert authority over all its territory, while Serbs are pushing for an association of municipalities operating with some authority in Serb-majority regions. Pristina rejects this as a recipe for a mini-state within Kosovo, effectively partitioning the country along ethnic lines. Kosovo's Prime Minister Albin Kurti explained his proposition.
I proposed a normalization model which Serbia already has with the Republic of Croatia, because there is no normalization, good neighborly relations, without mutual recognition, but also without serious, honest treatment of the protection of national minorities.
Serbia and Kosovo have made little progress on this despite committing in 2013 to dialogue aimed at normalising ties, a requirement for both to gain EU membership.